Hi, this is Cole Hamels. Welcome to the Philly Show.
Hi, everybody. Ruben Amaro Jr., Jim Salisbury, Todd Zolecki coming to you, brought to you by Foul Territory. Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, November 11th, 2024. Oh, Ruben, you got some.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah, we're still waiting
on some stuff.
We're still waiting on our
for you
Philly
people
show.
who need merch.
Yes,
and you need it because that logo is delicious.
Yes, it is. It is. We're working on some merch. We're going to get it eventually. Hopefully we'll have it to you guys soon. How are you guys doing? Good? Anything going
Tremendous.
on? Good.
Yeah, I just came back from the AFL, man.
Oh, yeah. How was it? How was
the
that experience?
MLB Network, and it was fun. You know, it was amazing. Stephen Brault, who basically just came off the field, was a left-handed pitcher with Pittsburgh and a couple other teams. He wants to do play-by-play. I guess he was. I haven't talked to him. Pretty cool. He studied voice in college. He was like an art guy, and a music guy, and he wants to be in play-by-play. Almost guys come off the field and want to do color. He did play-by-play. Did a nice job, and nobody compares to Tom McCarthy, but Stephen Brault did a nice job.
That's awesome.
And I was with Jonathan Mayo as well. Jonathan, who's the MLB.com guru.
Yeah.
He and Jim Callis really do a good job of handling the minor leagues and prospects in the draft and that kind of stuff.
See any Phillies you like?
I saw Griff McGarry. He got beat up a little bit. He did not pitch well, and it's going to be interesting to see whether or not he is going to be protected. He may not get protected because he's really struggling. But he was in the All-Star game. I guess there's not a lot of pitching there in the AFL.
Generally
There's more bats. I got a chance to see this kid Caglione. Wow.
Kid from Florida?
He was a 6th round pick. The kid from Tampa, from Plant High School, the powerhouse. I mean, they had Alonzo. They had my buddy John Ramos, Wade Boggs, Kyle Tucker. I mean, they had some studs. Michael Gibbons all came from Plant High School. He also did. Then he went to Florida. The kid is a monster, 6'5", 250, size 17 foot. And he's a really, really good athlete, man. He also throws like 97. They call him the Jack Tani.
That's awesome.
Jack Tani is his nickname.
That's cool. That must have been a fun experience.
It was fun. It was good to see some of those players, more position players than pitchers there.
So while you were away, Ruben, John Middleton spoke at the Penn's Wharton Sports Business Summit on Friday. The Daily Pennsylvanian was there, and I wanted to get your guys' reaction on a couple of interesting comments he made. First of all, regarding Juan Soto, he said, "I'm afraid Juan Soto wants to be in New York, and I don't mind being the stalking horse, but I get the feeling we'll probably say, you know what, we'll probably not win this." He kind of came out and just said what we've been saying based off of what we believe, based off what we know from talking to people in the Phillies and around baseball. He just came out and said it, like, we're going to take a run, but we ain't winning this. He's going back to New York. What do you guys think of that, first of all?
It sounds like he would eat his shoe if Juan Soto's a Philly. It was kind of pretty much the most concrete evidence we have to date that not only is Juan Soto an extreme long shot for the Phillies, that it just doesn't seem to be a fit if the owner is, making comments like that. I mean, not exactly comments dripping in optimism to land Juan Soto, but it's not surprising. We didn't think he was going to, we don't think he's going to end up here anyway for just a lot of reasons.
Right.
The finances, where they are payroll wise. In that story in the Daily Pennsylvanian, good job by the reporter who was there. Middleton articulated some debt that the team has. Right. Todd, you've written about that. It just points to Juan Soto being somewhere else, and he really kind of zeroed in on New York, which is something we all feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's that.
Here's what John said about this debt. So as we know, we talked about this on a previous episode, they added 3 new owners, right? And John, dwindled down some of his share of the team. It was like 48.75%. He owns less of the team now, not by a lot, but he owns less of the team. Anyway, regarding this debt, he said, in COVID, we lost over $200 million. My desire to get my trophy back has made me lose a lot of money. Our tab is $750 million. And my wife said, you are not spending $750 million on the Phillies. And that was that.
Yeah,
My wife says that to me all the time too.
Lee is, Lee's the person that, evens things out a little bit. John likes to get a little aggressive, but Lee's also, she's a little steady, it's a little more steady.
Everybody
they're great people. I mean, but
sure.
Listen, I'm not surprised at that. John wants to show the world, and he wants to be a large market team. He wants to be able to say that the Phillies are basically every player. That said, you're just not going to get every player. It just doesn't happen. And so I'm not surprised by the comments. And I'm not surprised that they're, going to try to make a run at him. I was a little bit more stealth when it came to trying to make runs at certain guys at times, just because we felt like we had a shot at him for whatever reason. But that said, John wants to do what he can to try to get that trophy back. And the Philly fans are loving on that. I mean, you got to love it that he's going to continue to try. And I think that's sort of owed to the fans, that at least the team tries to get better and tries to do what they can to be a world champion. And you got to respect that from John.
And there's not just one path. We've talked about this. There's other ways to win a World Series.
Oh, yeah.
By improving the roster this offseason without getting Juan Soto, or even without getting another big fish out there like Alex Bregman or whatever. There's many different ways you can win a World Series. So, but yeah, John, it was very illuminating comments from John.
I mean, there's no question. Everybody's upset about the offense and the offense. Well, guess what, guys? They got to pitch. And one of the reasons why they were really good last year is they pitched so well in the first part of the season. Mm-hmm. I mean, their starting pitching was great, but they also need to bolster up their bullpen. That bullpen is, to me, priority one. Priority one is the bullpen, and then it's starting pitching depth for me. And so I know that they have to try to get different pieces in the outfield to try to get better hitters, more productive hitters, contact guys, whatever the case may be. But that said, I mean, you don't get anywhere without the pitching, man. You got to have it.
Yeah, and right now they do need Hoffman and Estevez are free agents, so they need to find ways either to re-sign one of those guys or to replace both of them, because right now that bullpen looks really thin.
They need two guys out there.
Yeah,
and they need back
at least
starter.
Yeah, they definitely do. We will be right back.
Pop quiz, AJ. What is America's #1 meal kit?
That would be HelloFresh, Scott, and it even works for picky eaters like you. There's an ever-changing menu of 50 recipes to choose from each week. So just select your meals and delivery date, and voila!
Yeah, home-cooked meals just hit different. The recipes are easy to follow with pre-portioned ingredients delivered fresh. Just choose that delivery day, open your box, cook, and eat. It's so easy, Kratz.
Agreed. With FT every day and my coaching job, I don't have time to search recipes all night, and also spending money on a whole jar of spices for only a pinch? Nah, I'm good. My family gets more of me because I don't have to take a last-minute trip to the grocery store at night to find dinner. Ready for this? For free breakfast for life, go to HelloFresh.com/free FT. One free breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life just by going to HelloFresh.com/FREEFT.
We're back. Ruben, you talked about starting pitching and getting pitching, and I think Jim and I both agree. You got to have pitching to win baseball games over the long term. And we just said why Juan Soto is probably not going to come to Philly, but there's a free agent pitcher that suddenly is going to become available. His name is Roki Sasaki. He's a 23-year-old right-hander from Japan. He's a superstar over in Japan. Just 23. He's very, very young. He's put up some insane numbers over there. His team just announced that he is going to post for major league teams, which basically means whenever he posts, all 30 MLB teams are going to have 45 days to negotiate with him. And here's the important thing for Phillies fans wondering, because he is 25 or under and has not played 6 years or more in a foreign major league, he is subject to MLB's international amateur signing bonus pool rules, setting a cap on their contracts. So Yoshinobu Yamamoto last year signed for well over $300 million. I can't remember what the exact number was. Over $300 million. Shohei Ohtani, when he first came over from Japan, signed for $2.3 million because he was young and he didn't have the service time. So Sasaki is going to be under the Ohtani set of guidelines, which makes him basically open to all 30 teams, including the Phillies. Interesting name to kind of come on the market. Now,
it's the international pool that is affected by that, right? So the Phillies don't have very much for this year. So if he posts at a certain time, right?
Correct. So
if he posts before December 2nd,
yes,
then they only really have like 40,000 or something left in their signing pool, right?
Exactly. So if he posts before December 2nd, every team is subject to their 2024 international signing bonus pool. The Phillies have $42,200 left. That's according to Jonathan Mayo, who you just mentioned, who is an MLB pipeline guy at MLB.com. Now, if he posts December 2nd or later, the Phillies could use their 2025 international signing bonus pool, which resets at about $6.6 million. So if you are interested in Roki Sasaki coming to the Phillies, you're going to be interested in the post date, because if it's before December 2nd, the Phillies only have $42,000 to sign him, which is not good. But if it's December 2nd or later, now they have more money to sign him. But the Phillies have never signed a Japanese player. Japanese players, at least recently, seem to really love the West Coast, and I get it. Do you guys think it's in the cards here for the Phillies to maybe get Sasaki, or are they still kind of swimming upstream?
I don't feel it. I hate to give that answer on all these big names, but
right. We're the bunch of Debbie Downers here.
Yeah. Again, the Phillies are a big market team. They're a team that plays in the postseason. They're a team with big aspirations, and I'm sure they'll have the conversations and do their due diligence, and like they did with Yamamoto last year, make an offer possibly, depending on the posting date. But I mean, this feels like Dodgers written all over it. You look at their starting pitching staff last year with the injuries they had and the depth issues, and they still went on to win the World Series. I mean, unbelievable job by that team. But this, to me, it just feels like hand in glove that he would be a Dodger.
Yeah. Yeah, it smells a little bit like possibly Dodgers, but also San Francisco Giants. Buster Posey's going to want to do something over there, and obviously with the Asian community and stuff over there in San Francisco, I think that they probably want to try to make a splash one way or another. That's a possibility. They'll be pushing. AJ Preller's going to be on top of it. He's an international guru, so and AJ wants to win. I mean, there's no question. He'll beg, borrow, and steal to try to win. And they honestly had one of the best teams in all of baseball. So kind of surprised that they ended up losing to the Dodgers, because they had a really good ball club, and they've now added Mike Schilt, or they've extended him. So I think it's going to be a West Coast team. With that said, I mean, the Phillies have bolstered their international presence, right? Todd, they've got a couple of guys out there now. I mean, I know that at some point, Sal Augustinelli sort of stepped back a little bit, sort of overseeing things, but they have a real big Asian presence now, right, Todd? They got a couple of guys.
They've got a couple full-time scouts, and Jorge Vlandia, the assistant GM, goes over there. They have other scouts based in the U.S. go over there, and they've really made a point to put themselves in a better position to sign a Japanese player. If it's not a superstar like Yamamoto or Sasaki, somebody else at some point. And Dave Dombrowski, I remember he talked about this last year at the winter meetings on how when he first got here, the whole Asian scouting department situation was kind of like, it was not the best. But he feels really confident right now that if there was an opportunity, at least they're super well informed on who everybody is. So they've seen this guy pitch. They've seen all the great players in Japan and Korea play. So he feels right now that if a scout came over and said, we should sign this guy, they feel pretty confident about the information they're getting. So at least they feel better positioned. But you're right, guys. Mark Feinsand at MLB.com said exactly what you guys said. Source told him that the teams most likely to have a shot at Sasaki are West Coast clubs, You said Dodgers, you said Giants, you said Padres, and those that have signed Japanese players in the past, Phillies have never signed a Japanese player straight out of Japan, so that would seem to put them at a disadvantage. I remember talking to people when Ohtani came over, they put together this really nice presentation just to try, and they basically heard nothing back, so they knew they weren't going to get Ohtani. The Phillies also knew they weren't going to get Yamamoto. I think they had to kind of like say, can we please meet with him, please? And
me and Charlie Kurtfeld and Sal Gustinelli went over and saw him. And we saw some of these guys that came out.
Really?
That was the year Maeda came out and all those some of those other guys. Well, I think Ohtani was a little bit later, but then that's when we sort of started really getting into it, and just haven't been able to get over the hump as far as bringing anybody like of real significance over.
Yeah,
you make an interesting point about the Giants, who have a history of star players and new management with Buster Posey. They could be a force in this thing. They need to get on the map out there, especially with the way the two teams in Southern California are playing and what they're doing. So they could be an interesting team, but and the Padres is very interesting too. But he's going to end. I would think he's going to end up in California, and the Dodgers would be my front runner.
Yeah, I just think Phillies just at a disadvantage in a sense. Like as somebody put it last year, internationally speaking, like an American knows Paris, France, but they might not know the sixth largest city in France. So if you want to go play soccer in France, you might be looking at one of the Parisian teams, rather than some other city in the southeastern part of France or whatever, Marseille or whatever, whatever they are. So that's a, but at some point, maybe they can get their foot in the door. Maybe sign a corner outfielder. Maybe sign somebody who can play some center field. Maybe sign a utility player or something, or a big reliever that can help them out, and then maybe that gets their foot in the door.
Or get somebody like later on, Taguchi. He was so Taguchi.
He was so Taguchi. How about Tadahito Oguchi? How about that trade? That was a big trade for the Phillies in 07.
It was huge. It was huge. It was almost like Kenny Williams wanted to do Pat Gillick a solid.
Yep.
Because we got screwed on Garcia because Garcia pitched like once and we paid him $10 million freaking dollars.
Yep.
And then we had that issue with Tadahito, or then we had the issue with Utley getting hit by a pitch. Was it Lannon who got him?
Yep.
John Lannon got him. Yep.
John Lannon got him, and then I signed John Lannon just to piss Chase off the more.
There's no doubt in my mind that Kenny Williams, and he loves Pat Gillick. There's no doubt in my mind he was doing Pat Gillick a solid there.
I think that's probably true, but we ended up doing a deal with Tadahito, and Tadahito did a really nice job for us.
Really
Good player. Good player. That's the kind of player. It's interesting that you say he and Placido Polanco. That's the type of player that I'd love for the Phillies to try to get, because you can stick him in the lineup and he can make the quality at bats and quality outs and play the defense that's necessary wherever he is in the infield or the outfield. That player can help them sort of give the team productivity without necessarily having, the stupid numbers that some of the other guys can produce.
Baseball
player. Love it. Trivia question. Who did the Phillies trade to get Tadahito Oguchi?
I know
I should know that.
You should. All right. So Jim knows. Jim's laughing, so he knows. All right, Ruben, come on. Tick, tick, tick. Don't get it? I'll give it to you. Jim, Jim, what's the answer?
I know. Go ahead. I know who it was.
Michael Doobie, Rich Doobie's son.
Oh, it's Rich Doobie's son. That's right.
Yes.
That's right. That's right. Michael Doobie. I should have known that.
All right. So
the Doobs.
The Doobs.
We won't even get into the question of how the heck didn't you know that Freddie Garcia was hurt?
Oh, well, I tried to find out if he was hurt. We did a lot of study on him, and we found out later on that there was some information that wasn't totally given. So I think that's one of the reasons why Kenny Williams sort of let this happen.
Yeah, because I remember after you get I mean, I remember the night you got Freddie Garcia at the winter meetings in Orlando or Disney or whatever.
I couldn't get him to Philly. He wouldn't come. I called him up and I told his agent, I'm like, can the guy come to Philadelphia so we can sort of check him out?
But I remember
he's like,
after the trade. It was after the trade.
He pitched. He made his first spring training outing was at the old ballpark in downtown St. Petersburg. And he's out there grunting and groaning, 82, 82, 82. And I remember going down the scout section and they're like, what the?
This is not good.
What is coming out?
Yeah. And one scout who we all know well, I won't name his name, said, this is what he was throwing in September. You guys should have known.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. Well, one other piece of news that came, it was late Friday afternoon. The Phillies announced that they've made a little front office shakeup. Sam Fuld, GM, current GM,
a little one,
yeah, a little tweakage of the front office. Sam Fuld, GM, is going to in May of 2026 become the president of business operations. He's going to Wharton School. I wonder if he was at John Middleton's talk on Friday night. And they're going, what?
Does Sam have any more eligibility left?
Yeah.
No,
he did. Yeah, he probably doesn't have any eligibility. So Sam is going to, in May of 2026, move from GM to president of baseball operations. Preston Manning, who we just had on the show, was that last week or 2 weeks ago? Exactly. Go back and listen to our Preston Manningley episode. He was the assistant general manager of player development. Now he has been promoted to general manager. And Luke Merton, who is their hitting director of hitting in the minor leagues, has been promoted to player development director. He's the new farm director. So right now the Phillies have 2 general managers and a few assistant general managers and a new farm director. Basically, though, nothing really changes in the short term in the sense that Dave Dombrowski is still making all the decisions. Oh, you're right.
It's really like having 2 different assistant GM, or 3 because they have, or 4 assistant GMs really, because George Berlandia and
Tony Colombi,
and actually there's another one.
I feel like I'm missing something.
I mean, they have a zillion. We're missing
Ned Rice.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Forget that.
I mean, there's a whole. They're stacked up pretty good right now.
Yeah.
But listen, Preston Manning, I think, is a great baseball man. He's moved quickly through this system, but he's also, I remember talking to Chuck Lamar about him a long time ago, several years ago, and he worked with him in San Diego. He said he's a special guy. And having talked to Preston, I mean, he's a really intelligent, very focused, and I think he does a nice job of sort of, building like the whole package together. I mean, utilizing analytics, utilizing, the feel for the game. I think he's got a pretty good feel for the game, and I think that bodes very, very well for the Phillies organization.
I agree. He's an impressive guy, and if you just want to check it out, we had him on like 3 episodes ago, and
yes,
and so they're locking him up. Guys, teams steal from each other all the time. They don't just make trades on the field. They're always looking to raid your front office for the next bright, young executive type talent. And he's one of them. And so they've, locked him up where he has a big future here. I mean, Dave Dombrowski is signed through 2027. Maybe he retires and goes on to a new challenge after that. And they have their man locked down, ready to go. So I just kind of look at it as planning for the future.
Yeah, that not only that, a little surprising that Sam would slide over to the business side, but that's something I guess that he had some aspirations about. He's got a large family, and I think it's something he's a little more stable in that situation, I think. And John Middleton has a great deal of respect for his ability to be able to move the organization forward. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Something else that popped up last week, I think it was early last week, I wanted to mention is that Dick Allen is going to be on the committee or a ballot again for the Hall of Fame. We'll have maybe like a Hall of Fame episode.
Let's go.
Yeah,
let's go.
I mean,
Dick Allen, he needs to be in the Hall of Fame. It's sort of a no-brainer, man.
It is. I mean, he fell a vote short in 2014. He fell a vote short in 2020, just maybe a month after he died, or just weeks after he died, or a week after he died. So Dick Allen's on the committee or about. We'll find out during the winter meetings if he got his way in. We'll do like a Hall of Fame ballot episode in the coming weeks when that happens. So we got that. And I wanted to mention again, I will be signing copies of Doc the Life of Roy Halladay at the Great Sports Debate event at Puddler's Kitchen in Bridgeport, PA. That's tomorrow night, Tuesday night from 6 to 9 p.m. It raises money for CHOP, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Nice. So come down, Jason, all the big hitters, Angelo Cataldi, Jason Stark, Al Morgani, of course, Glenn Macnow, Conshohocken Brewing will be there. So have a beer.
Todd, did you notice the White Sox have a new manager last week?
Do you, Will Venable
and Will Venable and the Marlins do too.
The Marlins have a new one.
Yeah, but Will Venable
is the new manager of the White Sox. Someday we have to get him pulled aside and tell him that story.
Yes.
No doubt. He's a good dude.
How you humiliated me in front of a Pete McCannon and others, Jim. Convincing me to mispronounce his name.
That's so mean, Jim. You're a nice guy, Jim. Why the mean streak?
It just sometimes I can be impish.
That story always makes me laugh. Literally,
you're a wordsmith too, James.
I still remember where I was in the clubhouse when I where I was, and everything where I said it, and looking at you going, I can't believe you just convinced me to mispronounce Will Venable's name. So, but we'll be back later this week to talk more Phillies ball. Talk to you later, guys.
Smell you later, guys.
Smell you, Jim.
The Philly Show is brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Subscribe to The Philly Show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like us, give us a review. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, and Threads. Find Ruben's analysis before, during, and after Phillies games on NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Morning Show, and MLB Network. Find Jim at allphly.com. Find me at MLB.com, the Phillies Beat newsletter, and MLB Network.